If I think you're a degenerate, not only will I try to take your business license, but I'll try to get you out of my town. So you better believe that was conciliatory on purpose so that I could make him feel comfortable enough so that I could get those properties off his hands and get him out of our town. That's the bottom line. The guy doesn't belong in our town. And that's the thing about politics is a rough world just because you have to deal with people you would never talk to them. But because you've decided to take this on for the good of the community, you're forced to do the hard things sometimes that really suck.
Yeah.
And that was one of those situations where I would have rather strangled him and took him to the parking lot. But instead, I have
brother.
I got it.
Okay, I like.
Yeah, I like
Yes,
that.
I
That's
really-
my favorite Yinger take.
Yeah, I had no choice.
All right. So today we have Third Ward Alderman and Mayoral candidate Ray Strebel. So you're the Third Ward Alderman,
Yes.
and I just kind of want to get a little rundown on what a day in the life of an Alton City Council person looks like.
So for me, it's completely different than I thought. I thought basically that it was going to be like a give back to the community and an evening gig and very part-time and hands-off-ish more. But it's been just a full dive in. Of course, number one is potholes, people calling about their streets, overgrown grass in the neighbors. So there's a lot of that domestic issues that you talk about. But my role has expanded quite a bit. I personally feel like there's a vacuum in the city, and there's a frustration among citizens that want our city to go further, faster, and they just weren't getting that, and they were looking for people to do it. So I continually took on more and more responsibility, and it truly was turned into like a vacuum.
All right. So as Third Ward Alderperson, what are some of your accomplishments that you could
Okay.
tout a bit?
So I have I think it's an incredibly cool ward because, it runs north and south, Langdon and Central are basically your boundaries, north and south, and then it expands a little bit at the top and the bottom. But within that, I have a bridge, I have a marina, I have a historic neighborhood, I have what would be, you would see them more commonly in Godfrey, neighborhoods. So it was really neat that I get to touch all these different types of areas in the city.
Yeah, it seems like it's like the hub of the city's commerce, correct?
Yeah, it was the original. I live off of Insurance Row, where all the insurance businesses were, and it was considered the wealthy section of the town when it was first up and running.
I mean, it still kind of is in a lot of ways, right?
Well, no, the beauty of Alton is it is so diverse from one street to the next. A lot of the historic neighborhoods have houses that have not been kept up, that have been cut up over in the 70s and on, where multiple families lived in them, and they had very poor landlords and very poor policies to allow landlords to get away with some things. And so a lot of these old, beautiful homes that have such incredible personalities are really dilapidated.
All right. So why are you running for mayor for this year? Like why make the jump from council person to mayor?
Because I truly think we're at a critical stage in the city of Alton.
Okay, how so?
So there's three components that really stand out, that really pushed me to do it now, because I really do feel we are at a critical stage of the city of Alton. And our population decline. We've lost 10% over the past 12 years. So, that relates to, property taxes, and that's your revenue base for your city. And the revenue base pays for your services that you can provide as a city. So as people move out of your town, that shrinks, and then you get to the point where the services either have to decline, or you're going to have to increase taxes across the board to provide those services, or you might have to do both. And it really, in a lot of towns, that's the tipping point to where cities fall off. The second factor that drove me to it was the condition of life. I mean, we have a poverty. We got almost 25% of our adult population sits in poverty, and almost 40% of the children in our city are meeting the same fate. The third, yeah, it's true. I think our median average income is $23,000 for a person.
Yeah.
In the city of Alton. Also, And this is what's incredibly scary because the next point is our crime rate. It's twice that the national average. And the thing is, and it's been this way for 12 years, and it shifts. So crime rate, we do well in one area and then it shifts to another rate. We don't have a comprehensive plan or a policy to really drive down crime in our city. And now, as you can see, it's shifted into youth violence. It's become very obvious.
Can you tell us a little bit about?
Yeah, I was going to
how
say
you
that's
would
one of the
fix these
questions.
issues? Yeah.
Yeah, how would you?
Yeah,
How would you address
absolutely. One of the ways is I have a pretty good understanding, and you have to understand, the police department does not work for me. They don't answer to me, but I've had enough interaction with them that I feel pretty safe that they're understaffed, and I think by about 3 officers. The one thing that I've taken notice is the crime rate is ticking down a little bit. We're still twice the national average, but the one thing that they've installed and have been using and has worked is surveillance cameras in public places. When people see them, they tend not to commit crime. So that is working. So I see providing resources in that way. The third thing, and the most important thing, there's outrage in the community. And outrage is a beautiful thing because it makes people like me take action. And in City Hall, we have not had action like that. And what needs to happen, and because of the school bus shooting, which was in my ward and also shared with Alderman Brown's ward, I took a deep dive in it, and I'm like, who's involved in the city? And I came to realize there is no coalition. We do not have a group that is working together. The stakeholders in our city and the leaders, they are not cohesive, and they're not working together. And that is one of the things that I'm going to do, and I don't know what the other candidates are offering, but that is one of the top priorities, is I'm going to bring these stakeholders, and we're going to start creating policies and plans so that we can get ahead of this. Instead of being reactive, we're going to be proactive. And when I talk about stakeholders, I'm talking about, people in the community. I'm talking about the school district, which was completely absent. They had no idea that these 2 kids that went during the gunfire in that wasn't just an incident. That was 2 incidences. And the school district was unaware of this issue.
Speaking from someone who has 2 kids in the Alton School District, there could be a lot of changes there.
And
You're right.
Yeah, and the other thing that I am thinking right now, but you have to understand, I have not spoken to the police chief about this, and I don't know if I'll be fortunate enough to sit in that seat, but what I'm thinking is possibly an officer that's dedicated to juveniles, responses in the city, so that it's not so much my vision is you don't just address the kid, you address the family. And when you address the family, then you can address everyone that's related to the family, and then you're dealing with it on a community level. And I don't see that happening in our city right now.
I mean, you brought up that there's a 40% child poverty rate. That's obviously contributing to the violence. So what are we going to do to address the child poverty problem? Because the child poverty problem, like, you have kids that don't have enough at home.
Right.
You have kids that aren't getting food. You have kids who are not getting health care. Like, what are we going to do with that? Like,
Right.
how are we going to address child poverty as well as the violence? Because the child poverty is definitely leading to the violence.
I agree. So there's several different ways that we can approach this, that I will approach this. One thing is economic development. We have to give people employment in the city. And I'm a big believer in small business, entrepreneur. I'm a product of that. My parents had a hardware store, and they went bankrupt during the recession, and they had to start completely over. And they leaned on local economy, and they were able to survive it and flourish from it. So I'm a big believer in it. I felt it as a child. The second thing that we need to do is the city can do a much better job with the services that we offer for our kids. Our park and rec system, it's just not there, and we're not investing monies into local parks. And we're, I look at park and rec, and to my mind, I think of it as park maintenance and youth involvement.
Right.
And that's truly it, but I don't think that is a shared feeling by the administration or the directors as that. So making that a high priority. And the third thing is supporting our local agencies, like the Renegade system, the football system.
Yes.
I played Corey League football. My children's played on the Renegades. And I can tell you, their fields, they've not, nothing has really improved since I played football. And we'd go to Belleville and Collinsville. It felt like you were in a stadium. We were
Yep.
lucky to get a field, and I think they're still experiencing that.
They are. I've had several messages asking me, "Hey, Corey, who's going to help the Renegades?" I was
Yes.
like, "Oh, it's a really good question. It wasn't even on my radar until I started hearing from like people in the community. They're in my DMs. They're like, "Hey, you should look at the Renegades. You should look at how underfunded they are. You should look at how much need there is." And I played football for Marquette. I wasn't very good, even though I'm a giant man, but it was one of the things that kind of gave me something to do after school. And
Right.
a lot of these kids need that, but also to your parks thing, right? Gordon Moore is a really hard park to access for a lot of our community. And there's the sinkhole that's opened up so many people's eyes to the limestone mine beneath it. Like, I know so many people who don't want to go there because of it. But like, we also have parks like Rock Springs. And during the forum, you were talking about how we needed more infrastructure there, like Rock Springs, at like Riverview, at Killian Park. And Killian Park, like, just recently got bathrooms, I believe. And I know that Mayor Walker was talking about how he fixed it up, but I also remember he took down the basketball hoops and stuff like that. So what kind of plans do you have to make the parks inside of Alton city limits more accessible without, taking away from what Gordon Moore does provide? Because we do have a lot of tournaments there that bring a lot of people from out of town.
Sure. So I guess I would speak from experience. So I'm already involved, and this goes back to engaging our youth. Right now, we have the Haskell House that sits in my park, which is within my ward, and I've been fortunate enough to do that. I went out and found money. I mean, I sourced money, and now I'm rehabilitating a 9,000 square foot house that sits on our park that has sat vacant through 2 administrations, and they've done nothing. And what I'm doing, and I've been partnered with a nonprofit organization. What we want to do is I'm going to get it back on its feet. Right now, if you go by...
Which nonprofit is it? Sorry.
It's the Haskell House Children's Museum. So it's
Yep.
but if you were to go by Haskell right now, there's a crew out there that's making the back ADA compliant. So the idea is to get it back up on its feet, engage our children both through their minds and through their bodies, through physical activity. It is, and I love it, and this is one of the things I love about my ward, is it's so centrally located that everybody can get to it by a bike, which is the way that I lived my life as a kid.
Awesome. Yeah, I used to live on Court Street, which I believe is in your ward. It's right across from the Simmons firm. And I loved Barth Park,
Yeah.
that weird little square there. I would just go there sometimes and relax and meditate and read books. And it was really nice.
Yeah.
And I like just like weird little parks around Alton that I could just walk to and have a nice time. And now I live in the 5th Ward, and it's a little harder to walk around. Like, I can walk to Killian Park. It's just, the sidewalks kind of suck.
Right.
I'm not going to lie. But yeah, so, okay. A lot of things that, like, you've worked on. I personally was on a crusade against Studio 420. We're talking about things that are with
Okay.
the youth. And they were, as we know, proven to be selling vapes and stuff to kids. Your kid included, I
Yeah.
believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you were instrumental in getting that shut down. And recently, as you know, a lot of people have been getting this leaked phone call, allegedly between you.
No, it's
and-
real.
Okay, so it's real.
I completely own it.
Okay, cool. So between you and Zach Yinger discussing properties that he has on Broadway, people who could buy it, and in there you seem to have like a conciliatory tone toward the things he's going through. And a lot of people view it as you playing both sides, but also I've heard the argument that you're being conciliatory because you kind of want that dude to just sell his stuff and go.
Yeah.
And it's very concerning to me personally. As you know, I worked on the Yinger stuff as a citizen journalist way too hard.
Yeah.
Became obsessed with it. It was like the focal point of my life for a solid 6 months. But it weirded me out because it was recorded on the Yinger side of things. So I guess I have a few questions. First of all,
Sure.
did you know that was being recorded?
I was never told, asked permission. I was completely unaware of it.
We are a 2-party consent
Yeah.
state, so that is illegal to record you without your permission.
I've already taken action against
Okay.
him, and he's being investigated for it.
Wonderful.
And I hope that
Anything that guy gets invested
and I
in.
hope he goes to jail for it.
Me too, man. Okay. So the second thing, can you explain the nature of that call? Because I feel like it's lacking some context that I would love to hear.
I felt like it was a gift given from God when I got that phone call, because this is what you'll get in a mayor. If I think you're a degenerate, not only will I try to take your business license, but I'll try to get you out of my town. So you better believe that was conciliatory on purpose so that I could make him feel comfortable enough so that I could get those properties off his hands and get him out of our town. That's the bottom line. The guy doesn't belong in our town. And that's the thing about politics is a rough world just because you have to deal with people you would never talk to them. But because you've decided to take this on for the good of the community, you're forced to do the hard things sometimes that really suck.
Yeah.
And that was one of those situations where I would have rather strangled him and took him to the parking lot. But instead,
Hell
I
yeah,
have
brother.
I got it.
Okay, I like.
Yeah, I like
Yes,
that.
I
That's
really-
my favorite Yinger take.
Yeah, I had no choice,
I
for the
gotcha.
good of this community, is to make him feel comfortable with me so that I could make this. And honestly, I would not have played very much of a hand other than arranged him with somebody that I thought would fit so that it would be just a painless transaction.
Yeah.
But I knew if I get those properties out of his hands, there's no reason this guy.
He still
needs
has
to-
most of them, though.
Yes, he does.
Yeah, and he puts
that was
those
the other-
ugly ass palm trees out there.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the other thing that was in the back of my mind, and I was taking all this in really fast. The other thing I was thinking, they're telling me I have to sell them or else. And I don't know if you know this, but if they seize those buildings, they're going to sit vacant for an incredibly long time.
Yes.
Incredibly long time. So I was like kind of panicking about it because I didn't know what time schedule he was working on. So yeah, it was very odd. But that's the thing. You get put in awkward situations and you just have to do the best job you can.
Any
Do
idea?
you have any? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Do you have any theories about why he might have recorded that call?
took the words out of my mouth.
I have asked around about that, and from this is what a degenerate this guy is. He actually records all phone calls for
Yes, he
any
does.
attorney, and I've actually been told that when he called, like he's called me, like the first time I ever interacted with him, he called me and he's like, I got these lions and they're sitting on, the city says they're sitting on a sidewalk, but there's no sidewalk, and I said, just push the lions back. And he was like, not so easy. And then I went down there and saw those massive lions sitting on the sidewalk. And during that conversation, I think he probably recorded that.
Yeah. Allegedly, according to sources I had inside of his circle, videotapes everything, records everything, like everything is recorded.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre. There's cameras all over the building. Just some really insane shit. But okay, so so do you have any idea who leaked it though and why it was leaked? Because it came from somebody named King Solomon.
Yeah, that's what I was told. So I turned everything over to the Alton Police Department. I filed a criminal complaint against them.
Good.
And as far as I know, they're investigating it right now. I haven't been
Wonderful.
contacted about it, but I will pursue it and push as hard as I can to the extent of the law.
Good. I mean, I think anything.
And I
involving-
might even go civil just because.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's easier. It's a
Yeah,
lot
like
quicker.
any damage against Zach Yinger is a win for me. Which brings me to my next point, Kyle Holker. You disappointed me a little bit with that one. I'm not gonna lie, because I hit you up and I was like, "Yo, this guy's bad. This guy is bad news. You don't want this guy around." Because, but then I didn't realize you and I live in like very different worlds. Like I'm privy to things that you might not know, and
Obviously.
vice versa. So it's like I have my ear to the ground of like the underground in a way, like the seedy stuff. Like I get word of that.
You obviously do.
I like that. That was.
Corey's a wizard.
I'm not a wizard. I don't know. I don't know what the word for it is, but anyway, so I've been hearing about this guy for years, and I know people who have alleged he's harmed them, and so whenever you brought it forward, I was like, what's going on here? And then whenever you tabled it, I was like, oh, he didn't know all that. He didn't, because you got the letter from Brad Wells,
So
correct?
I did even more than that. I contacted the Alton Police Department, and they were like, we don't have anything for at least 10 years, and something happened in Madison County. And then I even went a step forward and got the letter from the Wood River Police Chief. So, for me, it's, if I was held and judged, and I know you know so much more about it, I don't really want to know anything more about it. But
No, you don't. It's
but
horrifying.
for me, I thought to myself, he obviously did some really bad stuff. If I was held accountable for things I did in my 20s, I wouldn't be given a second chance. So, but like I said, you obviously were privy to a lot more information than I was on that.
I doubt you did the things he's alleged of
I
doing.
don't think I
like,
probably did.
I don't like, no.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into the allegations for a myriad of reasons, but they're substantially bad. And
when I met him, his girlfriend, fiance, she's pregnant. So, everything seemed on the up and up.
yeah,
and I
maybe
went through
it
his,
is now. It's just
yeah.
I've not heard anything about reconciliation or conciliatory things or like repentance of any sort.
Right.
Like, I'm a big fan of redemption arcs. I believe that people can pull themselves out of bad situations and be better people. But if I don't hear about that happening, I'm still labeling somebody as potentially dangerous to our community. And I think one thing that everyone in this room has in common is a deep, profound love of Alton. We all have our skills and we all have our stuff, but I was happy that you tabled it. And then at the forum, I totally did misspeak. I was all jumbled, but I was talking about how Carolyn McAfee felt intimidated by him, and you thought I said intimidated by you, and I was like, oh shit, no, I didn't mean that.
Yeah, I was still kind of clueless by that. And I listen, everyone has a right to their feelings. And if she felt unprotected, I wish she would have told me and I would sit there. But there was an officer to my left.
Yes.
And so I didn't see any of it.
Right. I looked at the video and you can see them approach her, and then like she kind of shrinks back, but she said they just asked her for her name very angrily.
Well, I remember them saying something like, she said, this is a rumor. This is a rumor mill. This is the thing we're trying to get past. I would say she was passionate, but I didn't feel like she was threatening.
Okay. So.
But then again, I don't know. Carolyn's, her threshold is different than mine.
She's an older lady,
Sure.
and I could see why she was intimidated. But all right, so those are some pretty big deals to me because. Again, I have my ear to different things, so I got to hear about all the Holker allegations. I got to hear about all the YINGER allegations, and I'm just like, man, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I hear all this shit, and it just makes me crazy. I can't imagine what it's like to be like an alderman or a mayor who gets to hear everybody's stuff all the time. So, okay, so let's go to another one of my biggest passions, my biggest concerns.
Okay.
Alton has been named one of the best neighborhoods in St. Louis. By Out in STL magazine. Chris Ando recently took that over. He's doing a great job. It's a fantastic publication. But I was wondering, since on a federal level, there's so many like attacks on, especially the T aspect of LGBT trans people, as well as immigrants, that like these are becoming more and more vulnerable classes. And I know a lot of immigrant business owners at Alton, and I know a lot of trans people in Alton, and like queer folks of all sorts. And I was just wondering what your administration would do to, keep Alton's diversity and safety in check.
The beauty of Alton is it's so crazily diverse. It's an eclectic community, and
Absolutely.
That's what we need to do. We need to exaggerate how cool our city is.
Yeah.
Now, as far as protections, I mean, I would do everything I could to protect, the LGBTQ community or the immigrant community. I mean. I don't know how else to answer it other than that.
Right. I was just making sure that like you were supportive of groups that would otherwise be made vulnerable in the city because I know you've gotten a few letters of recommendation from people who are Republicans, and not all Republicans are transphobes, and not all Republicans hate immigrants. I was just like, does this bleed over though? Is this a thing?
So I'm across. I've Tom Hakes, former mayor, Democrat. Ed McPike, Jim McPike's brother, just wrote me a letter of endorsement.
Okay. And I know the mayor is not a partisan candidate.
No, it isn't. And that's the thing. And people probably get the wrong impression of me because, I got a Lacoste on and a collar and I look conservative. But I graduated from SIU Carbondale back when it was fun. So
Love Carbondale.
So, no, I'm a very liberal and open-minded person.
Okay, cool. That's really good to hear because I know Alton's trans community is, and I know like the gay community in general, like Bubbies and Sissies has been an establishment for the queer community for decades, even before it was called Bubbies and Sissies. And
Yeah, so I'm not going to say, hey, I got a gay friend, but I will tell you a story, and I love it. It's one of my favorite.
We want you to have gay
yeah, we
friends.
want you to
I
have so
do,
many
but
gay friends. We
but
want you to
have gay
like go to
friends.
drag shows. We want you to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I think it's just inappropriate to try to claim that now.
Right.
Talk to
I
me April
understand.
2nd, and I'll
I'll tell you all about the gay
Yeah.
friends.
But the greatest one I got is Bossa Nova, when it was probably a year or two after it first opened down, and it was just packed, and it was always packed. And my friend always says it's because the gay community liked it, and gay people just make things cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Alton has
it's
a
one of my
really
favorite quotes that he said to me.
awesome, and that leads me to another question. So Alton seems weirdly cool with gay people. Not that it's
Yeah.
weird to be cool with gay people, but still very racist.
You
So-
know, I kind of
so
feel like it's more divided now than it was in the 80s.
I would say so too. So what
And I
kind
don't
of
understand why.
current politics is probably playing a giant role in it. Media, basically everyone kowtowing to this idea that DEI is a terrible thing and that
Yeah.
anyone who's not white or a dude is awful, and that's not something I subscribe to at all. So I was just wondering what kind of things you would put into place to kind of make more not just diversity, but like community between different groups of people. Like, how would you foster more of a community by like white Alton, black Alton, gay Alton, straight Alton? You know?
Yeah, so one example would be the coalition of our our population would be one way to do it, to be more included of all races when making decisions on a leadership level or a community level, and that way everyone's voice is heard.
Awesome.
But that's the thing, you want people to be accountable, and you want them to have skin in the game. It's just a matter of finding those people and including them so they don't feel like they can't be a part of it.
All right, and that brings me to our most vulnerable class, the homeless,
Right.
or unhoused, whatever somebody wants to say. I've been told each one is acceptable, and I don't know which one it is, despite the fact that I've worked in spaces with people experiencing
I've
homelessness.
Been homeless, and I don't know what I should call myself.
and so I noticed at the forum you were happy with the position of the Salvation Army place in rural Bethalto, which I understand. Like, I understand the concern that it's a regional issue, not just an Alton issue, and I get that it's a more centrally located position. I respect that, but my biggest concern is it's not close to services. It's like
I
it's
agree.
not close to the library. It's not close to Crisis Food Center. It's not close to a lot of MCT stops that I know of. So I was just wondering, like, what we can do as a city to help our most vulnerable people.
Yeah. It's such a sensitive topic.
And everyone's mad at whatever answer you're going to get.
Oh, I could totally. Well, I will say this. I didn't want it out in the sticks. I would rather had it in downtown Edwardsville, because they have the revenue base to be able to provide the resources necessary to be successful for that. My biggest fear in Alton is huge heart and not the capacity to deliver on it, because then you're counterproductive and you're actually disservicing a population that needs help the most. And that's my biggest fear when it comes to the homeless. They need immediate attention, and if you're spread too thin, they fall through the cracks. And that's my biggest concern in regards to that.
I had read something. There was another shelter you were okay with, but then a bunch of zoning issues. I don't think it was one in Bethalto. It was last year's people. I think it was last year.
So I tried. So what happened was with the Salvation Army, I said your strategy's wrong. I said you can't go to the planning commission. You need to start at the neighborhood and get acceptance there, and then work your way to the city hall. So they adopted that philosophy, and I found a place out off of Fosterburg, right there at the highway in Fosterburg, but it was in the flood zone. It didn't work. And I spent quite a few hours speaking with Travis Woodman from Salvation Army about this. And, and for me, I was just like, Travis, listen, this is Madison County Salvation. What is Madison County going to commit to this? Are they going to commit to emergency services, policing? I mean, we don't, our shoulders are not wide enough. And the other problem I had with it was it's in the northwest, like I said, northwest corner of our county, and this is a county-wide service. So somebody from Troy's got to go 40 miles to get to the Salvation Army. It does not make any sense for a county. So then the discussion was Bethalto, and then conversation started with MCT. And
Yeah.
MCT is going to create a route to pick up and
Okay.
and to be able to get to grocery stores and hospitals. And I talked to Travis about it, and he said that they were very happy with the arrangement that was going to be made. I don't know if this will go through or not, as far as getting built there, but if we were in the if we were economically healthy like Edwardsville, I would have no issues with it. And that's where we were when we were the beacon for the homeless, in the turn of the century, 1900s. We had that population base, and we had the ability to provide those services. And that's the reason I brought the camping ban to the city was because, I was worried about public safety, and more importantly, I was worried about not having an opportunity for our first responders to engage in to figure out, physical and mental health. How do I get services to you immediately? And I know everybody was, when I first introduced it, was upset, but it went back and forth, and both parties agreed to it. And I will say this, for those that are still outraged over the camping ban, not a single person that is unhoused or homeless has been arrested.
That was like one of my greatest fears of it, is it would be an excuse to enter a vulnerable population and conduct more arrests. And I talked to Mayor Goins the other night about this, and we were talking about sacred spaces of care, which is something he touts with Megan Tyler. So how do you feel about that group,
Absolutely.
that
It's a component that is absolutely necessary, and it needs to be those type of organizations need to be a permanent arm of emergency response, definitely.
Okay.
The next question should be, how are you going to pay for it?
I mean, yeah, I heard it's grant funded right now,
It's
but
grant
grants
funded.
do run out.
They do run out. And so this is why I want to bring a fiscal commission back to the city of Alton. We haven't had one since 1998. So basically, I get a bill list a day before, so on Monday I have a meeting, I got a bill list maybe 15 minutes ago, and I have to go through 200 line item expenses and decide on Monday if I'm going to approve them or not. And they've all been paid. So what I want to do is bring in a finance committee and really zero down on our spending habits so that we can be a little more efficient and make sure that our money is being used appropriately so we can provide the services that are absolutely needed, such as that arm. I don't know where we are fiscally right now, just because when I was elected, we were a good $3 million debt. We didn't even know that because the books were unreconciled. So it wasn't until we reconciled the books that we figured that out. Mayor Goins is claiming we're $7 million. I don't believe that's a true statement.
Why not?
There's just to cover that. So one of the things I did when I was first elected is we got blessed with the $21.5 million from the pandemic relief money.
Yep.
And I wrote an ordinance that required every penny had to go in front of council before it could get spent. So we've done a really good job of making sure that money is getting spent so that there's a return on it. I don't believe we have that return as of yet.
Okay. So it's a projected $7 million
believe so.
surplus. All right.
I believe so. And then I do also think that there is pandemic money still sitting in a bank account that has to be spent by December 31st of this year.
Fun. All right. So that brings me to my other question.
Sure.
We have Sacred Spaces of Care, which is grant funded. We also have the overnight warming locations, which are not grant funded. And from what I've heard, the two groups don't exactly see eye to eye, because I know that a lot of the folks from Owls were not happy with the camping ban. And I know that Megan from Sacred Spaces of Care was very pro camping ban. And I don't know the extent of their disagreements. I noticed that. So I was going to say, what about groups like Owls, which are not, the government doesn't have to fund that, do they?
No.
Okay, so what about volunteer groups that assist with a lot of homeless outreach?
Yeah. The homeless is such a difficult situation because it appears to keep growing. Owls was pushed to the tilt, I think, and they wanted, I believe they reached out to the mayor and said, find more space for them. And I get it, that's the heart, but we have to figure out ways to approach the homeless so that our numbers aren't increasing, they're decreasing. So wish it was an easy answer of just providing them money.
Or housing.
And it's not
in
that
my
easy.
experience, mental health and,
Sure.
homelessness goes hand in hand. So bringing it back to mental health, we ask Owens the same question. How do you feel about mental health? Like,
So-
do you go to therapy yourself?
I can just tell you, I don't want to get real deep in the weeds about my personal life.
No,
but
no,
I will,
no, just-
I want to answer your question. My family has experienced mental health in which we've had to participate in giving care. And so I understand mental health, and I understand that if I wasn't involved in that when we went through it, that family member would have been homeless. So I completely understand the need for mental health therapy.
And you think
And
that,
you know,
like,
and the tragic
make
thing,
a positive impact on the numbers then? If
I think
people
it's
got the care
definitely, yeah, I think it definitely does. And the sad thing is, you know, I would love for my first responders, and I think it is appropriate, you know, to when they first engage a homeless person, you know, physical, mental state, okay, they're okay, they don't need food, they don't need water, they don't need anything immediate. Second question is, I would love for my emergency responders to say, do you have family? But I know that family's often the reason that they're homeless. But I do honestly, because of my experience, I feel that, you know, they should be asked, do you have someone that loves you? Do you have anyone that cares? And to try to rebuild that.
All right. So another thing that I'm concerned about in Alton is Alton Works, which I understand you approve the TIF funding
Absolutely.
and you get a lot of funding from John Simmons and Simmons-related entities. But
Wait, hold on, what did you say?
you get funding from like people related to Simmons, or am I incorrect on that?
I think I have had two.
Two? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
and I think I've had over 100 sponsors from people that live in Alton, and the rest were family and friends.
Okay, awesome. I was gonna say, because I've been watching people track your stuff, and they're like, "This person's attached to Simmons," and I'm like,
Somebody
I don't know.
said something like, he's getting money from Champaign or Chicago.
Decatur.
Yeah, and his name's Chris Hakes. And if you remember, we had a mayor named Tom Hakes.
Yeah,
I grew up with Chris. He was a childhood friend of mine.
and you've also funded your own campaign.
Yeah,
correct?
I put a substantial amount.
Yeah, you are the most funded of the three, correct?
Yeah.
I've noticed, because whenever I watch YouTube videos, I get to hear about all the potholes.
So I can, yeah, I'm sorry. I know.
No,
I'm
it's
harassing
okay. It's okay.
everybody.
It's okay.
But so that's great. Can we touch on that just for a
Yeah,
second?
yeah.
Yes, I have collected more money than the rest of them, and it's because I'm not a mayor, and I wasn't a mayor, so I didn't have the identity, the name recognition, and I knew that from the beginning. So that just tells you how dedicated I am when I decide I want to do something. I started raising funds back in July to do this, and so I knew I was going to have to use social media, which is expensive. So
Yep.
that's why I've been aggressive with raising money. Now, if I was a former mayor, I would not be probably as aggressive as that.
Gotcha. But at the same time, so we're talking about Alton Works, and
Sure, yeah.
And again, as we were talking on the break, I am the quintessential gentrifying hipster. I show up in your town, and it's like, there goes my property values. This man's looking for fancy teas and sushi and boba and whatnot.
Sure.
He goes to CJ's Juice Bar, which is a great place. Love CJ's Juice Bar, but like I'm wearing a Whitney Houston shirt with a suit coat. I drive a stupid old car. Like I'm a gentrifying hipster, but here I am being against gentrification. So
It's impossible.
What's impossible?
Gentrification's impossible in the city of Alton. I don't foresee it ever being able to be done.
That's a take. Why?
We're such an incredibly diversified city. I don't see how you can gentrify a city like ours. It is incredibly eclectic. I say this a lot, and I probably shouldn't say it because I'm sure somebody's going to ridicule me. But it's just like every time I watch in the garden, in Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I always relate it back to the city of Alton. It's just such a neat, diverse group of people.
That's usually where gentrification starts. You get like a lot of diverse people who don't exactly have a lot of money, and they have a lot of cool stuff, and you're like, ooh, money, I'm going to throw it in there. And it's like John Simmons has, through different corporate entities, has bought up like most of Broadway. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, to me, it seems like a stranglehold, because a lot of those buildings are like, of course, there's the housing, and you came out against the Lovejoy.
Absolutely.
And like, that was interesting to me. And I'm like, okay, interesting. Because I thought you were
it
the
doesn't
Alton
fit
Works
the
guy.
narrative of Ray being the mouthpiece of John Simmons, does it?
No, it doesn't.
make
I
any
thought you were
sense.
the Alton Works guy. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
So-
try
so-
to figure that one out.
I mean, I am right now. Tell me about that. Tell me how you're not the Alton Works guy, but still give me a little background about how Alton Works could still be good if you believe that. Because I'm willing to change my mind, but I'm very locked in on, man, we lost Luciana's. And again, I'm a hipster. I would go to the farmer's market and I'd get them damn cannolis from Luciana's.
They do have
I'd get the
cannolis.
lobster bisque and I would go home and it was all in my loop.
I used to.
And I blame Alton Works for it being gone. Like, just hardcore. Just like, John Simmons took away my damn lobster bisque after the farmer's market. I'm mad.
That was like little super villain vibes.
Yeah,
A
it's
little bit.
big
It
Lex
was
Luthor
hell.
going on
Yeah,
right now.
like-
So tell me, if you're mayor, like, how we could either get him to put stuff in there, or I don't know, get him to allow people to get those. Like what are we gonna do? Because right now it's stagnant.
Right.
We all know it's stagnant and it sucks. What can we do about it?
I agree. So all those buildings were purchased before I was elected, even as an alderman. What I can say about John is he's one of the most giving person I've ever met. He actually, I think, may even feel guilty about how successful he is in that manner. I will say, Luciana, I used to go in there and tell her food was too good for Alton.
It is.
So what I would say, as far as your Lucianas and the
Jacoby as
Jacobys
well.
would be another example.
But they
And
just
I'm
reopened.
gonna pull the curtain back so you have a better understanding of John. Like I said, he's the most giving person as possible, and that's great on a personal level. But he also owns a for-profit business, and what I've experienced, and I could be completely off, but what I feel like is John will come in and save the day. And we'll take, for instance, Jacoby Arts. Like they couldn't pay the utility bill, so or it might be vice versa. So he just made it so that they could pay. They couldn't pay the utility bill, so he shrunk the amount of rent they were paying. So he was upside down on it. He wasn't making any money whatsoever, and he did that for several years. And John does that. He did, like Luciana, never really had a firm contract. So the business side isn't there. It's almost like the nonprofit person playing in the profit field. So what happens is he does it and does it and does it, and then the business side of his business, which would be the Alton Works team, pulls him aside and says, "Listen, you're to make money. You can no longer do this anymore." So that beautiful act of kindness that John has done, and he's done for several years, it bites him in the butt.
And Alton
it-
Works, there's not Alton people in there, is there? Or are there a few?
Right,
'Cause-
there are, but not definitely nowhere near the majority of it. And so, so I would say if I was a frustrated and concerned citizen, I wouldn't focus on John Simmons the individual. I would focus my energy on Alton Works.
That's what I've been trying to do personally, like, because pulling back the veil a bit, I've met John quite a few times, and I've always found him to be a really cool, nice
He
guy.
is.
Like he's not a bad man, and that's why I was so confused. But I'm under the belief that anyone with that much money, even though like I know he grew up poor,
Yeah.
like he made his way, and like that's rare. But anyone who's got that much money cannot possibly know the ramifications of even good intentions. So like she said, it's a supervillain vibe, whether he wants it to be or not,
Well,
whether
and then
his
also
character
the
is
fact
that
that
or
he
not.
contracts a lot to St. Louis, people to do all the work on his
Does he do
buildings.
that,
Like,
or does the Alton Works team do it?
that's what I was about to say. Yeah, maybe it's not just him, I guess. Like,
So I'm
there's a
not
team of
following the same.
supervillains.
So
Team,
let's.
that's
I
the
just want to
worst.
make. I just want to make sure that we stay accurate. So you made the statement that he.
yes, I've heard that he got a lot of like
The
there was
planters.
yes, the planters. That was
specifically
one.
the planters.
Yes.
There was somebody who works on Broadway in the old Quality Pontiac building.
They didn't even get the opportunity to
Did
bid.
not even get the opportunity to bid. There was a huge deal that they were really upset about, and they brought in people from I think Creve Coeur or Chesterfield. And I've also talked to people who wanted to open a business on Broadway, and they were told to go to, not Ladue. What's the fancy place at Central West End? They were told to go to the Central West End, study the businesses there, and then come back. And it's like, Alton's not the Central West End. Alton is always going to be a gritty little river town. It's like, it could be cool,
Yeah.
but it's cool because it's gritty.
Yeah.
Like, it's not cool because it's all shiny and fancy.
Yeah, I definitely feel like you've got your finger on the pulse there. So the buildings are purchased. They're to code, to ordinance. There's nothing that the city can force John to do to his properties. There's nothing there to make it happen. So we've got a great guy that happens to be incredibly wealthy that has decided Alton is the place that he wants to make cool, right? So we've got that working for us. So what we need to do is figure out how we work with Alton Works in order to get that ball moving in the right direction.
I'd say give him Alton people.
Yes.
Well, I think what you need is
pull from the community.
This is where I think I can provide something that the present mayor and the former mayor cannot do. I have a relationship with John. You've obviously seen what I've done with the TIF agreement. You've obviously seen that I disagreed with the Lovejoy. What you don't know is John called me the night that I presented the camping ban, and he asked me not to do it, and I told him I'm going forward with it. He's not a bully. He actually respects you if you disagree and you make valid points and you're just not spouting off. We have a really good situation here. We just need to grease it a little bit and get it moving the right direction. We need to, as a mayor, I need to show the importance of filling these buildings with business owners that can supply jobs to local employees. That's the sustainable growth of an economy, and it's there waiting to happen. And he can make it happen. It's just from I see, and this is not something you can force any leader to change his vision, but I don't see that being top priority right now. And it's just going to be one of those things that a mayor must do, must convince the Alton Works team that this is the direction you need to go.
I'd love to have him on here and just ask him questions and then give him a book about Marx. But okay, so let's talk about tourism, because it seems like you're leading up to tourism. It seems like a lot of things we've talked about are making Alton cool, making Alton hip, making Alton trendy. One thing that we've talked about personally is making Halloween like a national destination for Alton.
It should be a festival.
It should be. We should be the Salem, Massachusetts of the Midwest. Like, there's no reason we're not. Although I will say that the ghost tours leaving Mineral Springs Mall and us having Troy Taylor there is such a missed opportunity. That guy is so huge in the paranormal field now that he can't run ghost tours. Like, man, that chaps me, man. I'm not going to lie, that I looked at that and it was one of my curse you Alton Works thing, like at the end of Planet of the Apes, and just hated that. So what would you do if you were mayor to make Alton a more favorable tourist destination? And I talked to Goins about it, and he brought up using more Great Rivers and Routes, using more Alton Main Street, but he seemed adverse to the Halloween thing. So I guess in an answer, talk about how all three of those things could play into the future.
Yeah, and I've played in this environment as an alderman without the authority to go any further, but I tried to move the Byway Activation Center to the riverfront. And I will say that I openly admit I was completely naive to think that I could pull that off.
Oh, the farmers marketplace, right?
Yeah, because there was, and so hear me out before you start
okay,
MFing me about
I'm not
destroying the farmers market.
His fancy smoked cheeses. You almost got in the way of his fancy smoked cheeses.
How do you know about the Gouda?
So that wasn't my. So hear me out, and we can discuss.
Okay, let's hear you out.
$9 million for 6 acres of land. That's the money that was going to be dedicated to 6 acres of land, was $9 million. Okay, I can do a lot of good with $9 million. I can build a Soulard Market type of permanent fixture for a farmer's market to fit on the same place that all they wanted was a building. So I must have done a very poor job of trying to, put that out there and be transparent about it. But I literally thought, everyone's going to sit at a table. We're all going to compromise. There's going to be the level of trust, and we're just going to figure out how to make this work.
Have you met Alton?
We are so far from that.
Yeah, that's
right?
how it works around here.
And I totally get and everyone's working in a silo, and they are farmers market, Main Street, incredibly successful. Problem is, city of population of Alton's declining 10%. We got to populate we need you to stay not only for a Saturday, but we need you here all week. And then I need you to play around in my neighborhood and realize we have cool neighborhoods, and all those stigmas that people say about Alton really aren't true. We've got issues like any other city, but this is a cool place and we need to sell that. And
I'm doing my best.
and I get that. So, as a mayor, first thing I do is build trust.
Okay.
That's the first thing. And we got to tear down these silos that they're in, and we need to work together. And as a mayor, you provide the vision of what you're trying to capture, and then you sell that to the organizations, and you see where we can match, and not by taking away from their success, but adding that success to the future of Alton. And I don't think it's really going to be that hard, as long as that trust can be established.
Okay, so
And I think we're very far away from that, and it needs some serious attention. And this is a mayor, as a mayor, I don't see the other two being able to do it.
So would you continue to make sure the city's funding like Main Street, Great Rivers and Routes, and like their goals?
So if
I know that-
you know the history of me, I actually, Main Street was treated like a charity. And so basically the mayor decided this year if he liked Main Street or not. So what I did, and the reason I found this out was it was a misappropriation of funds. I found that the comptroller, the mayor, was paying Main Street out of account. You can't do that. That account's restricted.
Oh.
So then I had to go to Main Street, and I said, "You're not going to get paid." I said, "Give me."
I'm sure Sarah was
Yeah,
thrilled.
Sarah had Sarah
Like I'm
handle
sure
that.
Sarah was great with that.
I went in front of their board and I said, "You got to give me a month." And so what I did is I wrote an ordinance, and so that we've got, God, I wish I had prepared better. So we got a food and beverage account. That's the
Okay.
taxes from that go into one account, and then we also have and I believe this is where they get paid out of a hotel tax.
Okay.
Incredible amount of money. I mean, we're talking $1 million in each of them, not been used. So this goes to tourism. We're not using our money appropriately. These are restricted accounts. And so basically I rewrote an ordinance and said Main Street gets paid this amount. And the way that I structured their payment was I said, you like Main Street to go, and how much do you pay them this year? And I found that total, and I said, and I wrote the ordinance, and I said they get this total at the least, or they get a percentage of. So what I did is I figured out how much did we make off of hotel tax this year, and then I figured out what percentage equaled the amount that the mayor gave. So they're actually getting paid on a percentage. So the more people they get to move here, I think it's food and beverage. So the more people that come here and spend money on food and beverage, right? This is travel and tourism. This is their bread and butter. The more money they make. It totally motivates that organization to be more and more successful. This is the type of alliances that I want to build.
What about Great Rivers and Routes? Have you angered other bald, charismatic Corey?
I'm not, not yet, but
Okay.
I plan to.
Uh-oh.
So if you look at the payment structure for Rivers and Routes, and Rivers and Routes was truly the Alton Tourism and Convention Bureau.
Yeah, Alton CVB.
Dedicated completely to the city of Alton. Mm-hmm. They're in 6 counties now.
Yeah.
Okay, they're not dedicated to Alton. In fact, the last time that they did the fall colors on the trees from Grafton and Alton, they went from Grafton. Well, they did. This is a smart thing they did. They did the advertisement that morning down at Old Bakery and Beer.
Okay.
But then when you actually took the tour, it starts at Grafton, goes to Elsa, and goes back to Grafton.
So they skipped Alton entirely?
They didn't even come to Alton last year.
Oh, that's a little
So
dicey.
let's talk about their payment structure, right?
Okay.
So they're approaching almost $600,000 annually from the city of Alton through their hotel tax and the food and beverage. Do you know how much Everettsville, Route 66, do you know how much money that they collected from them?
How much?
I think they collect like $70,000 a year.
That's interesting, because
It's very
Edwardsville has
interesting.
way more money.
And I
to
think
give
Grafton might be, Grafton just increased theirs, but I think they were at 15,000.
Well, Grafton's a small town, though.
Look at the amount of people that go to
I was
Grafton.
going to say,
Oh,
it's maybe
yeah.
small, but
I
I
on
mean,
a
we're talking
Saturday
about
night
travel
at 9
and
p.m.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
We are talking about.
You caught me on that one.
I'm going to tell you this. Why don't we just take out the stoplights so that people can get from the bridge to Grafton faster?
I mean, personally, I like going to Elsa. I mean, that's...
Oh, it's cool. I don't know why they haven't made a movie in
Yeah, it's
Elsa.
so nice. I love Elsa. Like, I did ask Mayor Goins this, but I'm going to ask you now. What is your favorite city outside of Alton regionally?
What do you mean regionally?
Like within the St. Louis viewing area. I mean, you said Springfield, so I guess anywhere between Springfield, Carbondale, out to West County, let's say.
Oh, I'm biased because I used to run half marathons, and I used to run St. Louis, and they block all the streets, and you run in the morning, so you can smell the brewery and then do all that. And I always had this, I don't know, romantic about. I loved the Soulard. I always thought Soulard was
Soulard is awesome.
Their
cool
farmers
area.
market is
Their
amazing.
farmer. I
love
got an ostrich egg there one time.
Yeah,
Size of my head.
yeah.
Same
I do
color
the little
too.
ones. Were they the quail ones?
I love quail eggs.
I will tell you the city that I envy the most is Savannah, Georgia.
Interesting, because I know Simmons has like a lot of.
Yeah, I found
things.
that out just recently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who love. I've never been to Savannah.
The
That
largest
is beautiful.
the largest landowner is the art school, and what they
Yep.
did is they bought all these houses that were falling down and decrepit, and they bought them and restored them, and it is just the coolest town. It's like, God, we should model ourselves after the coolness of this town. Yeah, the coolest thing about it is so they have these squares in their neighborhood, and everyone thinks they're parks, but they weren't. And this was back, and it wasn't Civil War, it was the Revolutionary War, I believe. And the parks were so that all the residents, whenever they were being invaded, they'd go to the park, and then the soldiers would surround the park and defend them. And they have all this history. I ran into a dueling area where they would have duels. And the cool thing is right next to it is a cemetery.
Oh, that's wild. Yeah, I mean, Alton has the kind of history that could
It
warrant
does.
that kind of stuff. And I mean,
Absolutely.
I love I think a lot of our vacant green squares. Like I had one in my neighborhood. I live off Washington, so
What would you do with it? So
I
here,
bought
what?
I bought the lot.
So
our neighbor's house burned
I
down.
plan to be giving them away, but I would like. So another thing I would like to
Giving away lots.
do, well, depending to neighbors we cut almost. I don't want to misspeak, but it's
lot
way
of
over
grass.
1 million acres of green space, and Element is the only organization that will. Well, we've had others bid on it, but Element wins it every time, and honestly, that's the second most calls I get is about overgrowth on city property. So the thing that our city has, the way that our ordinances work, is if it's not an ordinance, then it's illegal. So we don't have an ordinance for gardens or city. What do you call those? Community gardens.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's
so
one of
so,
the first things.
so community gardens are illegal, huh?
Well, they're not. If you enforced it, but
Well, then maybe I won't talk about the green space
No,
on my
so-
street.
but those are the things that I want to institute.
Okay, well, again, I live on a little side street,
Sure.
and most people don't even know it exists. I'm not going to say where it is because I do want to get murdered by an angry mob like Lovejoy, just not right now. Plus,
Yeah.
my wife would be mad at me.
Sure.
But a house burned down, and the lot was just up, and no one could ever build anything on it again.
What did you pay for it?
$4,500. I know. I overpaid, but everybody in the neighborhood wanted it, and I had the cash. So
Talk about the process. How did that work? How did you?
I talked to the daughters of the woman who died in the fire,
Okay.
and I said, they were like, everybody in the neighborhood wants this because nobody has a yard, and I said, okay, I want everyone to have a yard, but not only do I want everyone to have a yard, I want everyone to be able to grow things in it. So I got it, and for 3 years now, my wife and I and a group of really cool people have grown community garden there. Like we grow food for our neighbors.
cool.
We're trying to process more things. We have a tea garden. We have cucumbers. We do wildflowers. We've been working with the Sierra Club and TNI to get native plants there. So we're on the urban farm tour and stuff. So we have a white mulberry tree that just grows there naturally. So we get mulberries. We're going to make jam this year. We're going to make tea out of the leaves. Like we're trying to do things in a way,
cool.
and we have a lot of fireflies now and butterflies, and we have these orchard bees that are metallic blue, and we have
June
brand
bugs?
new bird populations.
The June bugs.
No,
Not
we
June
don't
bugs?
have a lot of June bugs actually. And then, I guess I got to throw down the final question, and I want to throw it back to Halloween.
Okay.
What are we going to do to make Halloween a big deal in Alton? We have the oldest Halloween parade. We're super haunted, and it's a creepy town. Let's be real. It's real creepy.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we going to do to make Halloween pop off? If you're mayor.
We need to make it a festival, and we
Yes.
need to include the amphitheater involved in it. We need to, work with we don't have a PR team right now. I mean, Rivers and Routes should be our PR team. So, that's an involvement with them. You bring in all these organizations, and that's the thing. If I'm elected mayor, you're not gonna have a mayor that's gonna sit there and be throwing orders out. I'm gonna be working collectively with organizations like Main Street and Rivers and Routes. These people are far more capable than I am. Sarah's been doing Main Street for how many years?
Time immemorial.
Exactly. So, those are the mechanisms in order to make it stand out. It's something it's a niche that we can capture that no one has taken advantage of. And we are leveraged to do it.
I want to be mad at how many people show up on Halloween.
Yeah.
I want to be like, I can't get anywhere. I'm so mad. So I guess to wrap it up, if you're mayor, give us a little rundown on how Alton will change.
So from a city hall perspective, you're going to see structure that will have process to legislation, and you will have long-term policies. I know you don't want me to talk about potholes, so I won't talk about street improvement, but that is an example of a long-term comprehensive policy that the city has never had, and they've never thought of doing it that way. So this is about the long game. And so with me, I don't want to be mayor for life. What I want to do is put us on the right road and get us in that direction. And I'm going to do that socially, politically, economically, and environmentally. And when I say environmentally, I'm talking about quality of life for our citizens.
All right. Cool. All right. I think that does it. Nicole, you got anything to add?
No, I just want to note his awesome socks. That's all. I
Yes,
just wanna,
Animal from the Muppets.
Yes.
I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but it's
I don't
Animal.
know.
Yeah, if it's
Pick up your leg. There we go.
Lift your leg like one of them French Jones. All right. I think that does it with the second inaugural episode of the Sunken Press. Sunken Press. There's no the.
You're saying your own podcast, Ron Corey.
All right. That should do it. That was fun, man. I really